What happens when you don't plan your path, but you follow your curiosity anyway? I recently sat down with Dr. Alok Aggarwal, who's the CEO and founder of Scry AI. He never set out to be a founder, but he followed his curiosity. And in the process, he built some of the most enduring multi-million dollar ventures long before the buzz. His story is a masterclass in building with quiet persistence. In this episode, we unpack how passion, humility, and willingness to stay curious can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Let's dive in. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Flow State Podcast. Today, we'll be speaking with Dr. Alok Aggarwal, who is the founder and CEO of an AI based company called Scry AI that makes AI algorithm products for enterprises across industries. Alok was a researcher at IBM, and then he founded IBM's India Research Lab. He built a multi-million dollar company called eValueServe that was kind of a revolutionary in its own times. And then he went on to starting Try AI, which was building AI products before actually AI was a buzzword. And then he published his book, The Fourth Revolution and 100 Years of AI. There is also a podcast series on Spotify for this book. I actually picked up a thread from there and it resonated very deeply with me called Keep Exploring and Stay Curious. From where I sit, Alok, you have seen all the big wins across, say, research, business, leadership. I am genuinely curious to learn what keeps you exploring and keeps you curious. So excited to dive into your journey. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Rajesh. Excited to be here as well.
Okay, you've built incredible products, services across academia, research, and business. If you look back now, can you give us a quick tour of your journey from wherever you want to start?
So, first of all, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. It's not that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. In fact, I did my PhD in machine learning, AI, theory of computer vision called computational geometry in 1984 from Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And then, as you rightly said, I joined IBM Research Division, which is a Watson Research Center. And my aim was to become a professor, a researcher. So I wrote a lot of research papers first 5 years, then had a sabbatical at MIT, had two PhD students. That's when I realized I did not want to be a professor because it requires a lot of edit responsibilities like admissions committee, writing proposals and grants, and so on. So I came back. We were very lucky in 1993. Paper mill CEO from Portland, Maine came down, wanted us to improve his paper mill from end to end, from paper pulp to providing paper to New York Times, Rolling Stone magazines. And we told him we have no clue about how paper is made. And he says, well, I have a guest house. You can come and spend time there. So we spent 3 months there. And then we ended up building a complete end-to-end scheduling system. Fortunately, that product was so used by this company and several others. This company used it for almost 24 years. So that, I think, in some sense was the foray because we were not only building the product, but we were also selling it from IBM Research. That made me curious and interested in exploring how you can build and sell products and services. That was my first foray into something where I was a founder. All of the things that we tried actually did not work out. We had audacious goals. However, some of the algorithms later were used by in various aspects of IBM's software products. And then I met Mark Wollenweider, who we met in India, and we actually had nothing to do with AI. And we started a company called eValueServe, which is all about knowledge process outsourcing. And I think we can actually take knowledge process outsourcing now to KPO 2.0 with all the AI that's there.
Correct.
In 2013, I told Mark I have very little time left before I retire, and everything takes about 15 years. So I quit and started Scry Analytics Inc. In February 2014.
If someone were to get a job in IBM, they would not want to leave IBM and start something on their own, right? So from IBM to eValueServe, what was the moment or transition period that kept you thinking to start something on your own?
Actually, it wasn't from IBM research to eValueServe. It happened because of the paper mills. Because it became so useful, how they were using it and how they were actually saving money. In fact, it's an interesting story. I told the other person who was working on it. Say, let's go to Silicon Valley. You be the CTO, I'll be the CEO, and we'll start a company from scratch. We'll
Mhm.
rewrite all algorithms, and we don't have to do paper mills. We can use steel mills and many other areas which are very
Yeah.
similar. And he says, no, your wife is a medical doctor. She'll bring food to the table. I need to bring food to the table in my house, so I can't go. And that, in a sense, that was the starting. I mean, that's why I call myself an accidental entrepreneur. For the next few years, I kept thinking, I should leave and start something like this. And in fact, the head of research, Dr. Paul Horn, found out and he said, hey, if you want to start it, why don't you start IBM India Research Lab for us? I will be the VC, I'll fund you.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started. Then, of course, once I had taste of it, I thought, why not do other interesting stuff?
Yeah, that's great. And when you were building eValueServe, I'm sure you worked with a ton of different companies, different industries. Any moment that helped you think like, hey, I need to stay curious. I need to keep exploring because it's a 15-year long tenure in different companies, but there must be something that kept you pushing.
Yeah, so some of the interesting part was we were beginning to see how knowledge process outsourcing was evolving in itself. I mean, even though we had written a research paper literally on how it will evolve, some of the things were coming out true and others were not. So, for example, we started in January 2001, and we had said that in 12 years time frame, it will basically be an industry in India worth $12 billion. Now, we had overestimated the amount. It became only 3 billion. But why we failed was we not anticipated that things always take longer in B2B domain to be adopted by businesses. From my perspective, the proposition was very clear. Every company wants to save on costs, but that's not what has happened even until now. So a lot of these interesting nuggets we learned along the way, 2008, 2009, and probably 2010, there was a great recession. And then that's when I began to realize that all of these outsourcing groups are linear with respect to the number of people you hire. And that cannot work in the long run because you need to bring in software to automate some of these. And that started another thought in my mind of how do you automate this? That I thought would be the time that you can now do some of the work that humans are doing machines.
Yeah. Maybe around in 2000s, the tech wasn't widely used by enterprises, mobile phones, right? With apps, everything literally changed in 2010s, but that was not the case in 2000s. You think that was one of the reasons that maybe data and analytics part was just before it actually took off?
And I say the fourth industrial revolution started in 2011, precisely pointing out what you just said, that look, in 2000 to 2010, Moore's law was full force in effect. Data was being produced but was not being consumed, and we did not have deep learning networks which would do this kind of work very quickly. But then it took off at a very different slope. But I think it started with the rise of IBM Watson.
Yeah, yeah. Even now, eValueServe, if you look back, it is still a successful company.
Yeah.
People would hang up their boots after one big success. And first you founded the research center, started eValueServe. That's the second success. Did that help starting the next one? Or did it make it more difficult for you to start Sky AI then?
No, I think it definitely helped me start the next one for many reasons. Very honestly, I was a technologist. That's why I said I'm an accidental entrepreneur. And as technologists, when we start companies, we often do not realize what businesses go through, particularly with respect to risk and compliance. Given what I had learned in eValueServe, all these issues are basically roadblocks that will occur. And therefore, you have to have expert knowledge systems or expert understanding, subject matter expertise. I think was very important for us to build algorithms and software in AI, which takes that into account.
So in eValueServe, you must have seen so many problems. What were the big problems that you thought like these could be solved and that could potentially have big impact?
eValueServe or knowledge process outsourcing, so banks, consulting firms, insurance companies, strategy groups, marketing groups of large companies. One of the most important aspects is doing research. Some is desk-based research, some is doing surveys and so on and so forth. And that is where I think most of the interesting problems also lie. that you want to collect the data automatically from the web, from various places. Now the data is going to be unstructured in nature. So, I mean, that's where it becomes very interesting as a research problem for Scry, and looking at it from not only from LLM perspective, but from different perspectives, and trying to get clean, harmonized data. Because unless you have good data, you will not have good algorithms. So that, I think, is the most interesting.
Yeah. And when you started then Sky AI, what were the some of the initial challenges that you saw? Like, hey, this industry or this problem we need to solve first before going into, say, second industry then.
So, like anything else, there are interesting stories around this. So we went and were trying to sell one of our solutions to a bank in Silicon Valley. And what we realized was we're trying to sell a solution, but the underlying problem is still data. Our our algorithms are not able to reconstruct tables properly. If they're not able to reconstruct tables properly, how do we expect to sell? So in 2016, we started the whole project that we will actually produce from unstructured data to structured data with a very high fidelity or very high. Now, LLMs definitely have helped, but they are not the answer either.
How did you sell that vision to other employees? Any person whom you interviewed changed even your vision, changed your thought process?
It's more that somebody changed my thought process, but converting unstructured to structured data is more than just simply an audacious goal. You have graphs and charts, you have infographics, you have flowcharts. So it's not an easy problem to convert all of these kinds of data sets into a harmonized value.
You still have to be curious to keep solving the problem. So what kept you curious? What was the underlying motivation behind that so that you can inculcate the same ones in your employees?
So I think it's curiosity and passion is one. But the other thing is that I still tell people that if we don't achieve 98.5% accuracy, we really don't have a move. There is no way we will survive. Why would a client come to us over our competitors? I think after 2019-20, and this was just around the time that GPTs were beginning to become famous, we were beginning to see results even without LLMs, that our employees in US and India, they began to see that this is really something worth doing, because without this, there is no solution. This is the plan.
And what was the visceral reaction from some of your colleagues when you start to see some success that actually motivates people, right? Anything that you can recall that helped bring the momentum into the organization?
I did see a lot of change in 2022-23 timeframe. And since then, I see people just completely behind it, that this is the right thing to do, that without this, we will not be able to provide any interesting use cases with proper return on investment, where there is no hype, where we can say, look, this is how much the software will cost you, this is how much it will save you, and so on.
Was that Sky AI completely self-funded or was it through VCs? And
yes,
so what were their reactions during this time then?
So fortunately or unfortunately, when we started EvalueServe, Mark and I both had the same view that we should fund EvalueServe from our own pockets till it becomes profitable. And only then we should go to private equity groups or VCs to fund it to the next level. And that worked out very well for us. VCs are very good because they give you money, but they're always looking for results tomorrow. And that is not in our hands, whether we can sell today, we can sell tomorrow. So fortunately, Mark and I both funded that, and that worked out really well. So we went with the same view that till this company becomes profitable and achieves a particular revenue level, I'll fund it this time. And of course, product companies require much more funding than services companies. So we have not taken any money, but we will probably go and raise some fair amount of money next year. Once we are able to prove that indeed this whole notion of unstructured to structured data, we are getting a 98.5%, 99% accuracy, and we can beat everyone in this area, whether it be any LLM like OpenAI, Topic, Azure AI, etc.
So if AI can do everything, then what would humans be doing in your view?
So first of all, I think AI right now is overhyped with LLM. LLMs invariably fail when it comes to B2B data because they've not been trained on internal data that Wells Fargo or internal data that an life insurance company has.
But then there is another aspect which makes the thing complete, which is subject matter expertise, expert systems. You have to have the subject matter expertise of the banks. You have to have the ontology of the banks if you're going to make it work. And unless you have that, you cannot make the entire system work. I think we're still far away from getting there, far meaning 8 to 10 years from these systems becoming solving the first mile problem, which is unstructured to structured data problem, and solving the last mile problem, which is basically adding subject matter expertise properly. In my book, I write in 2050, we expect about 400 million jobs will be lost to AI
Mm,
uh, by 2050. The
okay.
good news is that actually human population will almost begin to stagnate by 2050. We will be actually begging robots and AI systems to be doing our work because we just may not have enough humans to do them.
So one of my other friends, he said that if AI is going to solve all the external world problems, people need to go inwards, was his view. That if everything is being solved for you externally, someone has to go internally. That was very
It's an
interesting.
interesting philosophical view.
Let's take a little pivot away from AI to more of a your philosophy of learning. Without learning, you wouldn't be starting, say, eValueServe or even this one. What's your core philosophy of learning and staying curious?
I, my own view is that if someone is passionate by nature, they are bound to learn in some area or the if you're passionate about, let's say, playing basketball, you'll learn more techniques or you'll invent more techniques about basketball. If you're passionate about singing or music, you will again learn more and more, think more about it. My own view is that it's the passion that makes us tick. And it's our work or karma, as they would call in Hindi,
Yeah,
which makes it flow. So without the passion, there is no fire. And
yeah.
without the curve, which is like putting ghee on the fire, putting butter on the fire, there is no roaring fire.
But how did you develop your passion on that then?
Yeah, so that's another thing. My own view is that all of us are passionate about something. And it's not that I developed it, I just channeled it into one or two areas. I mean, and people often don't realize their passion or may channel it and put it on the side saying, look, I need to make money for my day to day life, my family, and so on. And their passion kind of goes away or goes into literally a hidden basket or a hidden can. But I personally think that everyone is passionate. I think passion is what makes the entire universe tick, forget about humans. And it's all about, in Rigveda, it's all about how there was nothing which got tired of being nothing, had passion to become something. But I think passion is innate. In my view, people have passion of some form or the other. Most of us have probably put the passion on the side because of one reason or the other. And my hope is going back to what your friend said, that if AI will be able to help us do many things, then maybe we'll become more curious and we'll bring out our passion more, whether it's creating new statues or creating new songs and become much more creative because the AI can do the work for us.
Definitely. I was listening to another podcast, and the podcast is the name called The Glue Guys. So Ravi Gupta, Shane Barrier, and Alex Smith. And something they refer to in different life phases, we are chasing something different. Initially, you're chasing a person. Maybe you want to become like Kobe, right? You want to become like Michael Jordan. And then later on, if suppose you become Kobe, then there is no one else to look for, and then the motivation becomes more inwards. What were you or how you have been chasing, say, different personal heroes?
My own view is that people are not always chasing heroes. They really want to have a lot of respect for those heroes. For example, if somebody was to ask me as to who do you have a lot of respect for, I would say Albert Einstein. Yeah. And number two would be Alan Turing. I would say that these heroes give us inspiration. So the three heroes who have given me inspiration would be Albert Einstein, would be Thomas Alva Edison, because he never gave up, and Alan Turing. There is an old small snippet about Edison that early 1900s, he was sitting in his lab trying to make a nickel iron battery, and his
Yeah.
friend Edward Malloy came in. says, a very good friend, hey, for all the work you've done, man, you've achieved nothing. And his answer was, why do you say that? I know at least 1,000 ways how I cannot meet Nickel and Patrick.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate, hey, the grit. Hey, I'm not going to give up, man. So I think, so I'm not totally sure that we may be chasing subconsciously these people. I may be chasing these people. I do feel that we are always inspired by such people. And that inspiration probably continues till, in my view, till later on in life. But it does begin to, I do agree with them, it does begin to go slowly from outward to inward.
Yeah. So having built a couple companies and building the cutting edge products right now, then what really matters to you? Like, I know you talked about your own passion. What really matters now?
Same things, passion, grit, humility. I mean, I think a very important aspect of life is humility, that you have gratitude, what you got from the society where you are. It could easily be somebody else have a heart attack or heart problems or any other problem. So I'm very grateful that I am in a decent health-wise in a decent shape. So I think those three things definitely matter a lot to me. I think innovation because of passion still matters. And that's partly again looking inward as your podcasters were saying, that you're looking inward to think as to how you can help people, how you can mentor people, how you can help to do it.
Maybe that is the framework to reinvent yourself after a few years. Find out what that is.
Yeah, but my feeling is you don't even do it consciously. Sometimes you just figure it out automatically. How I started, as I said, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. That's a story. I mean, if there was no paper mill scheduling system, would I be doing any of this? Most likely not, right? So, I mean, how much control did I have over the incidents that happened in my life and which caused stories and caused things to develop? I think the only thing I can say was being curious and saying, hey, this is an interesting thing to do. But I did not make this thing happen. I think I'll be amiss if I say I was curious and I wanted to start be an entrepreneur. I I don't think that's actually being honest about what if I look at my life as well.
Yeah. I think that just cycle,
Yeah.
being passionate, being curious, and probably doing something. And if you keep doing that, you will keep creating things and you will find something that might become big in this world.
Yeah, big or small, we don't know.
Yes.
But I think in that cycle, as you said, that's what I've often thought about. Being passionate, keep doing it, keep building things. You will be always on the move. I mean, something good is likely to come out on an average, may not come out sometimes. That's life.
Yes, yes. And when you have been trying to build things new all the time, were there any doubters or naysayers, or how did you deal with that? Because it sounds easy. Yes, I have spent 15 years in one career, next built second one, and then I built a third one, but there were challenges along the way. There were people who were
Yes.
doubting you. How did you cope with that?
So that's a very, very important, interesting. So one of my very close friends lives in Silicon Valley, and he said, hey, I expected you to start something interesting, something new, but you're starting something in services. Services is a boring area. You should be starting something in products. So complete naysayer. I mean, he helped me later on, helped me sell some of the services, to be fair, because you cannot always say no to naysayers. Naysayers make you introspect and think, are you right or wrong? Because you can be very arrogant and say, I'm right all the time. And when it's written on the wall or right in front of you that, look, this is not going to work out. On the other hand, if you have a belief that this will work out, then you have to give it a try. And you have to be more optimistic. And I think that's one of the features of entrepreneurs, of innovators, builders, that they're very, very optimistic. By nature, optimism is probably their middle name. But at the same time, I do agree that optimism can take you in the wrong direction also. You're so optimistic that the world is telling you that this is not going to work out for these reasons, and you're not even listening to logic because you're so optimistic.
Yeah. I think you just said that being optimistic all the time actually helps. And that would probably give you passion, probably give you energy to work on those things.
It's an upward spiral.
I think when you were talking about your friend who was challenging you, were you conscious about curating a group of friends or mentors that can push you along the way, or that would challenge you in your thought process?
Yeah, not creating a group who would challenge me, but talking to definitely to different people, particularly to clients, as to what will sell and what will not sell. It should be cautious optimism. I mean, you should be optimistic because if you're not, you'll not achieve what you want to achieve. You will not be
Mm,
passionate about it. You should be cautious and listen to people, in my opinion, what they're saying. You may
yeah.
still say, okay, let me try and do that, and I may fail. At least then you know that you may fail because somebody who you have a lot of respect for is telling you and giving you counter example.
For all these years, you must have read hundreds of books. What would be the book that you would recommend or suggest people that they should read at least once?
I think a good book is great. I think it's a very well written book. The professor is from UPenn
Mhm.
and you learn tough book. If people are interested in economics, Us Capital
Yeah.
book is very written. Then there is a book written by Daniel Pink, The Power of Regret. And that I read about during the COVID period. And I think I should go back and reread it.
Just to close out our conversation, what would be your one thought that you want to leave everybody with?
I strongly believe that we all humans have passion to do something really. I think that is the spark, all of us. And it is worthwhile pursuing your passion with a lot of great.
Thank you, Alok. I truly appreciate you sharing your journey with us, your insights, experiences. And one thing that I took out of all that is passion. Keep discovering the passion, keep igniting the passion, somehow follow that passion. You will be on your path, I should say.
Yeah. And that's what I personally believe. Passion, grit, and humility are three things which should be just part of your daily routine and on your value system. And you may or may not achieve because you don't control the universe, but you'll at least enjoy what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. On that note, thank you, Alok. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate all of your insights.
Thanks, Rajesh, for having me again.